Cleveland is such a money-hungry, shitty city, bro. And if you don't know what's going on right now with CMSD, the school district has laid off over 400 teachers and counting in the last 48 hours. So over 400 teachers have woken up in the last 48 hours without their career. And I just left the parent-teacher conference at my son's school, and my son's teacher was one of them. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for her and her family and her life. And it breaks my heart to know that she was such a staple of my son's life for the past year. And I've grown to know her. And I am just so heartbroken for her. And I can't believe that they can just come in here and take these people's jobs away because we are lacking money. Yet there's still people in office that's making 6-7 figures a year. There is a higher up for every single department. And there's departments that we don't even use. But the teachers that are here on the front line that are actually putting in the work to help develop these children and are the ones that's making an impact on the children's lives are the ones that's being cut.
Yo, here's the thing people are about to start noticing, and I've been saying this before, even on the Millionaire Morning Show, is that some real shifts are coming, big ones, and honestly, it's not random. This is what happens when years of bad financial decisions finally catch up. For a long time, a lot of these cities, school systems, and states have been mismanaging money. This problem didn't just pop up overnight, it's been building. Truth is, the fallout was supposed to hit either right before the pandemic or during it. But instead of facing it, the government stepped in and flooded the system with money. That COVID money gave everything a temporary boost, but it also drove inflation way up because there was just too much cash circulating. So what happened? Instead of fixing the deeper issues, a lot of these institutions just kept spending like nothing changed. They didn't scale back to pre-pandemic levels. They didn't adjust. Meanwhile, they were already dealing with long-term debt and financial problems that had been stacking up for years. Now we're at a point where things just don't add up anymore. You can't keep paying salaries, funding programs, and operating like normal while the debt keeps growing. Eventually, something has to give. Take Chicago, for example. The school system alone was dealing with around $734 million in deficit, and that's separate from the city's overall budget shortfall, which was projected at about $1.6 billion. That's not a small gap, that's a major issue. And situations like that are why you're going to start seeing more layoffs, especially among teachers, and more alternative schooling options popping up. When Trump talked about restructuring the Department of Education, it wasn't just politics, it was tied to this bigger financial and structural problem. The idea was to push more control down to the states. So instead of the federal government handling everything, states would manage and distribute the funds themselves. That way, accountability becomes more direct. You don't just blame some distant system, you look at your governor, your local officials, your school leadership. And here's something people forget. Back in the day, when states introduced lotteries, they sold it as a way to fund education. They told everyone, play the lottery and the money goes to schools. That was the pitch. But over time, a lot of states started redirecting that money into their general budgets while still claiming it supported education. That shift created even more imbalance. Now we're seeing the consequences. Schools struggling to stay funded, districts cutting jobs, systems starting to crack under pressure. And it doesn't stop there. Some cities might even end up filing for bankruptcy because they just can't sustain themselves anymore. They can't support the system, the students, or even their own operations. At the same time, you've got new models emerging, like AI-based private schools. That could end up becoming a blueprint for how education evolves moving forward. Not saying it's perfect, but it shows where things might be headed. Bottom line, everything is shifting. The way schools operate, the way money flows, the way accountability works, it's all changing. And what we're seeing right now in places like Cleveland and Chicago is probably just the beginning.
If we keep getting interrupted, adopted, we will recess the meeting and come back and vote on the final resolutions without any presentations.
A packed auditorium, constant rumbling at times made it hard to hear, and at moments that seemed to be the point, to make the board hear from those impacted even without a formal public comment.
We're going to recess the meeting.
And as the board got up and left, it wasn't just educators taking over the meeting, but students too.
Ultimately, they're the ones that this is going to affect.
And even as the crowd continued, the board moved ahead, skipping presentations and unanimously approving Resolution 14.04, confirming hundreds of layoffs for the end of the school year.
The resolution is adopted. The next regular board meeting will be a board business meeting.
As the meeting adjourned, members of the teachers union looked on in frustration. Some saying they had hoped for answers before the vote.
I feel like it would have had a lot of important information in it that would have, sparked some questions from both the board members and also the people in the audience.
Look, before I even decided to speak on this, I took some time to really dig into it. When it comes to topics like education, teachers and kids, you can't just talk of emotion, you gotta be informed. I'll probably break this down even deeper on the Millionaire Morning Show when I get the chance. But from what I've seen, this isn't something that just popped up. This has been in motion for a while, and people behind the scenes already knew it was coming. I think what we're about to see is a shift. A lot of teachers are going to have to pivot, whether they want to or not. And unfortunately, the gap between those who have resources and those who don't is going to get even wider. More families are going to lean toward homeschooling, but the reality is that's not a solution for everyone. Teaching your kids requires time, discipline and skill, and not every household is equipped for that. At the same time, school districts may face even more funding cuts. Class sizes will grow, resources will stretch thin, and pressure will build. In cities like Cleveland and Chicago, it could hit especially hard.
Who want to understand, why this is happening. So for them to just move past that straight to the vote was pretty disheartening.
We spoke with District CEO Dr. Warren Morgan following the vote. I asked how he reflects on the public outcry seen here.
It's tough to make the decision, but it's also tough to be there and listen and hear. And when you get the calls where people say, and this has impacted me, that's tough. There's no other way to describe that.
CMSD, the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, is laying off 400 employees this week. This is going to save them $50 million a year, yet they're also building a $2.5 billion stadium for the fucking Cleveland Browns.
This really has nothing to do with the school district itself. I just wish more people took the time to understand how things actually work, where the funding comes from, how taxes are allocated, and how money moves overall. A lot of folks mix up completely separate issues, and honestly, people need to be more involved in local politics if they want real clarity. I'm not saying layoffs are okay, because they're not. But some people try to justify what's happening by pointing at something unrelated and saying, look at that over there. It doesn't connect. The two situations are completely separate.
I'm from the greater Cleveland area. I worked for 2 years in Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and it's just truly abhorrent how Republicans have made such a concerted effort to dismantle education in Ohio and specifically Cleveland. Cleveland, if you don't know, it's where the Rust Belt meets the Bible Belt, or Ohio in general. And so you have super religious pockets. You even have the Amish in Ohio, and even in places like Medina, you have KKK chapters. And Medina is half an hour from Cleveland, Ohio. And places like Parma, because the Rust Belt collapsed, because Republicans shipped all jobs to Mexico and China, cities like Parma, when I was going to school, growing up, you just saw all these towns slowly dying because of the decisions made. People in Ohio are amazing, but some schools don't even have busing. Some schools, they don't even have any extracurriculars. They cut their school down to English, math, science, social studies, 4 classes, and then they're out. To build a sustainable economy, to build sustainable community, you need to fund education. But the irony is, in order to control people, you need to not educate them. You need to keep them uneducated. At this point, I hope Princess Peach or Yoshi, hell, Daisy, it's time to clock in. Because the car and oil companies already destroyed Cleveland once. Cleveland had a robust public transportation system, and then Cleveland automakers literally hired bandits to destroy the public transit system. And so here we are again, big business, taking money away from the people so they can build a stadium for the Cleveland Browns. Like, I grew up in Cleveland, I grew up in Ohio. We never even went in the stadium. We would just tailgate because the Cleveland Browns.
Alright, y'all, drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm interested to see how you're looking at all this. I'll be breaking this down in more detail on the Millionaire Morning Show soon because there's still a lot to cover. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in and staying locked in with me. Much love, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.